Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Power Hour here with Dink TV at the Kassu Domino Warehouse showroom. My name is Nebyou Kassu. I'll be your host and moderator for the evening. I have been a big fan of the music industry, of course, globally. For those of you that don't know, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. That's my hometown, ATL, just like some other talented people I know. And I grew up there most of my life and came here for a 3-month vacation, and that was exactly 10 years ago. So for a lot of you, that's going to be happening soon. You just don't know it yet. A vacation turned into a staycation, and from everything from media to marketing to entertainment to nightlife and now to distribution, one way or another, I find myself surrounded in the entertainment industry. And now I find myself in this blessed position to be able to help develop it behind the scenes, and more importantly, to help spread the word through some very powerful and impactful people, both that live in this market and both that are visiting from other markets as well. So half our panel is here from Ethiopia and half our panel is visiting. So you're going to get a great mix of input from both sides of the fence. Now, let me introduce you our esteemed panelists who will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the stage. First up, put your hands together for Alemeda. So, for those of you that don't know, Alemeda, what a beautiful name, is an Ethiopian-Sudanese artist whose music transcends borders, blending eclectic sounds and melodies seamlessly. Next up, can we please invite my brother, Mr. Henok Yegezu, to the stage. For those of you that don't know, Henok is the co-founder of EQT, a visionary in the music industry who has played a pivotal role in shaping the landscape of artist development. Moving on, we're delighted to have Miss Mariam. Mariam, you come on up here. Make some noise for Mariam Tekeste. Mariam is the founder and CEO of Mela Muziqa, who's been a trailblazer in promoting diverse voices and fostering collaborations within the Ethiopian music scene. Up next on our panel, let me invite the very, very talented and famous Mr. Jay Beck to the stage. My brother Jay Beck. For those who don't know, Jay Beck is the founder of World Africa, whose passion for music has not only entertained, but has served as a catalyst for music promotion throughout curated experiences. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome up to the stage Miss Blen. Come on up, Miss Blen. For those of you that don't know, Miss Blen Mekonnen is the founder and CEO of Bana Records, a driving force behind emerging talent and a visionary in the Ethiopian music scene. Today, these brilliant minds will share insights, experiences, and thoughts on the evolving music scene, both locally and internationally. So without further ado, let's dive into this enriching discussion, and please join me in welcoming all of our panelists once again. Now, obviously, we're doing this for respect and for formalities, but just so you guys know, this is going to be a very comfortable family setting, just a bunch of cool people having a conversation. So there's not going to be any tension in the room. And also, we will open up the floor a little bit later for questions and answers. So please make sure you observe what they're saying, absorb it, and if you have a question, save it to the end. We will open the floor for whoever would like to ask us questions today. So, with that being said, we're going to start with this amazing talent right here to my right, Miss Alemeda. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background as an artist?
I started doing music when I was 18 years old. It was something that like all my friends kind of pushed me into doing because I was always singing. I didn't really see myself actually doing music, but I did it. I went to the studio one time and I enjoyed it, and ever since then I've been going to the studio pretty consistently. I taught myself how to produce, how to write, and from there on I just basically perfected my craft that I just loved doing.
Amazing. Okay. So tell me about your upbringings and what experience shaped your voice as a recording artist.
I actually didn't listen to a lot of music growing up. My mom is very religious, so it was very much like religious music only. But I feel like when you live in America, music is everywhere. It's in the store, it's on TV, Disney Channel, stuff like that. So you can't really avoid it. I grew up in Ethiopia and I grew up here, and I feel like I always loved Ethiopian music and American music, both. And it really, I can say both cultures definitely impacted like the type of music that I just love now as an adult.
And I made a mistake earlier when I was saying half of us are from here and half of us are visiting, when in reality you were actually born and raised there.
No, I was actually born in Chicago. but I didn't stay there very long. And then I was raised here in Addis.
You were raised in Addis.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Sorry, my apologies. Okay.
You're good.
So, to follow up that, I also would like to know, is there any piece of advice you can give to the crowd from your point of view? Or from the point of view of an aspiring artist, I should say.
Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like outside of everything, the most important thing is to just always believe in yourself, regardless of what life throws at you or what people might say. At the end of the day, your opinion matters more than anyone else's. And I feel like I couldn't have gotten to where I'm at if I didn't just truly believe like I'm gonna be what I want to be. And yeah, belief in yourself is definitely the most important thing I would say you need more than anything.
All right, next up, I'd like to ask Brother Henok a few questions. Mr. Henok Uzu, now that you have an interesting trajectory into the music industry, can you please share what they look like in terms of your journey there? And then also to kind of follow that up is how you found your way into artist development, A&R, and how you created your own record label.
First off, thanks for everybody for being here. I'm super excited to be here. I actually got in this morning, so if my energy's kind of low, just some jet lag. But yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I mean, my journey started in Washington D.C. I grew like what we were saying earlier. That's like the second Addis in the world. Yeah, I started out throwing concerts, and I was on the live side, and was just really passionate about live music, and which is a huge piece of artist development for sure. And that just kind of led to me opening up this small studio and being super connected with the local scene out there. And this was about almost 12, 13 years ago now, and at that time, I probably didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I was definitely honing in my skills on artist development between having a studio, doing some national tours that were coming to the DC area, but tapping into the local market to make sure that they were the ones getting the slots to open for the bigger artists that were coming in town. And really just being around a lot of local talented people that kind of led to me discovering two artists locally that I just kind of let use my studio for free that I was developing at the time. One was an artist named Golink, who's from the DC area. Another was an artist called Caliuchis, who black people don't know, she's from Alexandria as well. So both of their first projects were actually made at my studio. And it was kind of like this, it's almost like this side hustle to throwing shows, because I just ended up meeting so many local artists. I was like, oh yeah, my office where you can come pick up tickets and posters has this like kind of like rinky little studio in the back if you want to record. And it just kind of picked up. So I think from that, certain success started to happen, things were starting to break out, and very quickly I realized that throwing concerts maybe isn't my calling, but it was actually being on the management, artist development side. As that started to pick up, I realized how close I was to the artist development process versus there's some differences when it comes to just like managing an artist versus being like really close to like, what songs are we making? What's your brand gonna be? Let's find out what your voice is and who your audience is. And then me and my business partner, who we still work together, that's how EQT was birthed. And then so for the next kind of wave of artists we were working with, we realized it was very important for us to be as hands-on with the artist development process and really guiding the artist development process. And you realize like until you have the resources to do that yourself and then kind of wait to go to the major labels when it's ready, especially when you're working with left to center artists and you want to be patient and you want them to have their own voice and you want to take your time, it's really important to do that in your own sustainable way, right? And not kind of have the gas put on you because there's this idea of what a major label might think is success for that artist, right? So that just kind of led to us starting our label, getting distribution through Universal, and then that just kind of led to us continuing to develop artists. Yeah, I mean, I'm super passionate about it. It's been almost 15 years doing it. I can't see myself doing something else. And really the big reason for us also being here too, Berhana's playing the Gaslight show on Friday, and when me and him were talking about coming out here, being able to show that diasporic artists can come and really touch the community and see and create foundation to show that it's possible to do shows out here and have them sell out and tap back in with the community. And that's just super important to us.
And it's so interesting you said that, because there's a couple of outlet owners that I've talked to and people that want to open up clubs, lounges, and just really entertainment hubs. And like the most common thing I'm hearing now that everybody's saying is, I want to build a studio in the back. I legit just want to have a club to have that entertainment, but I want to take like a small pool of people out of that and take them in the back and start recording.
Yeah, the ecosystem is super important. It's like how how do you create enough chances for people to connect and create? And I think that's something that infrastructure is just kind of like embedded in a lot of big American cities. And, you know, I mean, Ethiopia is the second largest country in Africa, right? And I think all of us, it's not a coincidence or a secret to see what's happening with international music, with African music, what's happening in West Africa. And I think figuring out how that's going to happen here, but in an organic way, is things like that. It's like, what's the, you know, the clubs with the studios, the community. I mean, even when Alemeda's in LA, she records in my studio a lot with one of my producers, Louis Lastic, and it's like one big community, right? It's people actually like helping each other out. There's places to go be creative. There's infrastructure to help you be creative and finance it in an interesting way. And that's something that I think, you know, would love to see kind of grow here over time.
Now, this one just came to me off the fly. I know it wasn't on the list, but I've had about 2 or 3 people ask me this over the past few weeks, and then we never got a chance to wrap. Is what does EQT stand for? If you're open to share that, and also what is it? Because EQT is a little bit different from other teams in the music industry. What is it that you encompass as a label, and what lanes do you cover? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. So it stands for equative thinking, and you know, it's really like just the thought process that everything kind of feeds into everything, right? Like 1 + 1 should equal 3, and that you're being super intentional about how you approach who you are, what you're doing, and kind of keeping all those things in mind, and you know whatever that formula is for you and how that kind of comes together. Shortening it to EQT just sounded better, so that's why it's EQT. What's the second question? You said something else besides.
Yeah, so when people, because for those of the audience that maybe are still learning about what the music industry is, because I can imagine for an aspiring artist, for you to just see an artist, it's like, okay, great, I want to be like that person. But what does it take behind the scenes? Right. Whether it be publishing, whether it be distribution, whether it be management, whether it be tour, you know, those elements. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, if there's one thing I've definitely learned over the years is that it's no one size fits all. There's no one path. And, you know, for some artists that are great at galvanizing an audience really early, but maybe they don't have the biggest songs or they're not streaming, touring is probably the first place where they're going to start to create some real deep connections with their fan bases, right? There's some artists that are just incredible songwriters, and maybe the songs aren't, and the lifestyle around that artist is not the most unique thing. So their pathway to success might be through the songs, right? The songs are going to ultimately like drive what's happening. You know, it's just kind of, and that nuance, you kind of build that over time. It's not something that anybody can really, you know, straight up teach you. But I think within that you build your own style of the things that kind of you get attracted to and what you want to spend time with and invest in. You know, and in a developing market, it's kind of like no holds barred. It's the wild, wild west. Like you don't really know what it's going to be that's going to finally be the tipping point for, you know, Ethiopian music to figure out its thing and how it kind of translates to the rest of the world in the right way. So what the blueprint for an Ethiopian artist that's catching some traction might just be different, right?
Which is literally what I was going to follow up and say. So what you're saying in short is that no artist has the same path.
Maybe some similar paths, but definitely not the same path. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Excellent. And I want to close it up by saying, just in case for those of you who don't know, EQT I'm a fan, so I'm going to tell you, he has some of the best artists that I personally love. So for those of you who don't know, Masego signed to EQT, if anybody's a fan of Masego out there. Chloe the God, a very talented up-and-coming singer. Smino, one of my favorite artists as well, assigned to his record label. And also a very, very recent addition to the team for anybody who's a fan of the Nigerian artist Wale. Wale is now signed to EQT as well. So there's a lot moving. And more importantly than any of those, you have a very, very special talent on your roster. He goes by the name of Berhana. Your name is Henok. His name is Berhana. እነዚህ ስሞች በጣም በቀላል ማለት እንችላለን. Why? Because you're our people. How did this develop? I'm very curious, and how special is it to you?
Nah, for sure. I mean, in Habesha fashion, my cousin actually showed me Berhana first, so that's how. He was like, "Yo, you gotta." He actually has great taste, so it was funny because he would always like first time I saw him at a show was like a Golink show or something, and he was just there as a fan. He's like, "I didn't even know you work with," you know. And so like he's always putting me on this shit. But yeah, so we, you know, I think me, a mutual friend of ours connected us directly, and we just, you know, kicked it, chopped it up. We had a very similar viewpoint on music. Both were very passionate about where we come from. And I think from the jump, it was always kind of a part of the process, you know, of not to do it intentionally and not to be like overbearing. It wasn't like, okay, we got to go make Amharic music. Like that was, you know, it was like what works for you. And I think this last project in particular was something that he built up to over time. And, you know, he had a really, really strong vision for the project. We actually were out here in January 2020 together. And that was his first time here. I think that was my first time here without my parents. So I was like actually outside. I was doing shit, learning what the landscape is. And we were both super inspired by that trip. And then obviously the pandemic hit. Everybody's inside thinking, you know, contemplating and being creative. And he came back with this incredible idea. You know, a lot of people might not know he's actually very much like a visual artist and a writer, has a film and TV background. So anytime he comes with an idea, we're all ears. He always has incredible kind of ideas and really knows how to execute his vision. So he came with this idea, and we were all as a team very patient to kind of work through him figuring out what that looks like. And that was the Nomad Dream, the album that just came out only a couple months ago. And
go stream that.
Out everywhere. And yeah, I mean, you know, trying to figure out how do we tell this story in an organic way to our people, diasporic, and even locally, right? By being able to do the screening that we did at the Hyatt a couple months ago, which led to us being able to do this show at Gaslight on Friday, which you actually were a part of that, because at Upscale, we did that kind of listening of, you know, some of the first mixes of the album. So just, you know, you have to really care and put that extra time in, right? It was actually a good example of like, if he was maybe at another label, they wouldn't have quite understood why it's so important to lean into a market that doesn't even stream yet, right? So, you know, let's take the time and make sure like we have a real focus and a reason on why we do it, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Henny. The floor will be open for questions later, so make sure you keep that in mind. And coming up next, I'm really, really excited to introduce Miss Mariam. So, Miss Mariam, what motivated you to venture into opening your own record company? Let's start with that, and then we'll move on to my next question after that.
So for us, it's basically like we used to live in the States, and when we came here, we saw that there were so many people, like young kids, that were so talented, but they didn't have like anybody to help them, like put their music out there, to guide them, making sure everything they release is like, you know, up to like the point of what it needs to be standard wise. So it was just helping the youth, because you know, we had the exposure of living outside. So coming here, you really see the difference of just in like the sound quality, video quality. They never have management, and they never really like push themselves and like believing themselves, because they never had anybody to guide them in order for them to like believe in themselves. So that's kind of where it started.
And you segued into my next question perfectly. So with that being said, can you discuss the importance of creating a supportive and creative environment for artists, whether it be in the studio, whether you said management, all the different lanes that Henny was mentioning earlier?
So for me personally, like when you're an artist, it's not something you just do by yourself. You need a team. So you need a team to help you build your brand. You need a team to help you make sure that all your content are like up to the standard. And you have to be international. You know, we can't just keep doing music just for us to stay famous locally just here in Addis or in Ethiopia. So the world is moving, music industry is like growing. So we have to find a way where we're able to compete with other artists that are not in Africa. So kind of just like started there.
So in that same breath then, what are some of the issues you've had with I guess you can call it, we're a developing market, let's use that term. In a developing market, what are some of the challenges that you face, and how have you overcome those?
Just educating artists, because they don't really educate themselves outside of the community here or locally. There's a lot of artists that I've personally met that they don't even listen to like music outside of the Ethiopian music industry. So if you don't open your ears to like other countries and other musicians and explore other options, you can never grow. You can never like explore other arts. You can never challenge yourself to grow, or, you know, be even more creative more than what you think you are. So it was more of like guiding them and helping them, making them believe in themselves that, you know, if you reach for the world could be yours. And you know, you don't have to limit yourself just to be famous in Addis or in Ethiopia and just be a regular Ethiopian artist when you could be a worldwide artist that's able to not just, you know, for yourself, but for your country as well, you know? And just giving them that opportunity, just saying, hey, we're here for you. Like, you know, we got you. Because a lot of kids, they don't have that here. And a lot of parents don't really support their kids when they want to be musicians because it's not part of our culture, or, you know, that's not what your parents want to be. They want to see you become like a lawyer or a doctor and not a musician. So that's like a big thing as well. So it's just more, you know, just showing people that if you aim, you could get there.
So this one, we didn't talk about it, but it just came to me right now. So I'm not going to ask you who your favorite artist is on your label because I'm not going to start a fight within all of them, okay? So what I'm going to say is, what I'm going to ask is, what's a favorite project maybe that's currently happening or currently got launched or will be launched soon with one of your artists that you're excited about, if you just want to share with us?
You guys have heard of Yimra? So Yimra has a new album named Guramaile. He's a very, very, very talented kid. He
is.
It took him a while, but he's finally there. And, you know, he's coming up with a lot of great other projects, videos and stuff. So stay tuned for that.
Excellent. You guys heard it here first. Yimra. Thank you so much, Blen. Thanks so much, Mariam. Mr. J. Beck, welcome to the panel.
What's up?
You've been a trailblazer in connecting the dots to event curation in Africa. With African artists across the continent and bringing them to the U.S. Can you share a bit about your origin story and how you are where you are now with World Africa?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. So I used to go out, well, I still do, but I went out a lot. And my business partner now, so I'm based out of Boston, and he was like, yo, why are you spending money at events when you could be making money from doing events? He was like, you know a lot of people, this, and that. And so he brought me into the scene, and we started to, you know, put money down to do, you know, different concerts with different African artists that would come into market. So from Adekunle Gold to Rema in DC, we did Buju this year in Boston, and we've done, you know, Burna Boy's After Party in Boston. So we've met, you know, we know a lot of the African artists from West Africa, their team, and we brought that all together. And so essentially, like, I kind of wanted to develop my own brand in a sense of like, what kind of experience can we bring to Ethiopia? I came same time, that was around the time I met Henny as well, 2020, 2019. We went to Everyday People here, and that was actually one of the organizers. I met him that time too. And I was like, this is so beautiful, like this is a great experience. Ethiopians don't really get to see this kind of experience. And so I really wanted to curate that kind of vibe, that kind of experience. And so I had a thing called Ambassa, which was kind of like a tree that, it was my marketing company that had consulting to events, to merchandise. And I ended up doing a 1-year anniversary, and I called it World Africa. Did very well in Boston. And then I ran it back in the summertime for my birthday. And then it became a thing. It became this like prominent brand building African event experience, not a party, because the thing is, anybody could be a party promoter. Anybody could throw up a flyer on their Instagram and just, you know, promote the event. There's a difference between being a party promoter and being an event organizer. You're basically project managing about 30 to 40 people for one event. And so essentially it grew in prominence on the East Coast. And so I actually, earlier this year, I was in corporate. I worked for a media agency for about 4.5 years. And obviously, economy is going crazy. So I actually got laid off top of the year. And like basically a week later after that, I got a message from this venue in Boston that's actually half owned by Live Nation. And they wanted to bring World Africa to their space. And it's like a 2,000 person venue space. And that was just a crazy moment for me, because I was like, damn, okay, this is like God telling me like, yo, start it up, like go all in and do it. So yeah, so essentially I just did World Africa like all over, you know, the East Coast. So New York, DC, I did Dallas. I did Ethiopia last year, but this is before I got connected with like Live Nation and Ticketmaster and such, and had access to those connections. But yeah, I did a fall tour, and yeah, so essentially that's kind of the gist of the upbringing of World Africa, the concerts that we do. Yeah, that's the whole gist. I don't know if my business partner here, but.
So with that being said, so you've built this community now where you're bringing African artists in, and I don't want to assume that your audience, in terms of who you're bringing out, are all Habesha people, but I would say it's safe to say probably a majority of them are Habesha people?
Yeah, I think for me, so this is what I'll say. World Africa is called World Africa because I don't want it to just be Habeshas, East Africans, whatever. Yes, I know a lot of them, but like at the end of the day, it is World Africa. Like at the end of the day, even if you don't even know if you're from Africa. Like I want you to feel like you're from Africa when you're at the event. Like it's supposed to be an experience that makes you want to buy a ticket back home after the event. Like that's the goal.
And with that being said, go ahead, finish. That's my follow-up question. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, and then like that's why like for example like this trip, like you know when you know Henny told me that they were doing a concert, I was like, yeah, let's interconnect everything. Like let's have World Africa as the after party. Let's make sure people feel that experience, you know, even after the concert, that it's like something you really feel like you're at home, and it's something that people in the States, Europe, wherever they're at, are like, damn, I have FOMO. Like, I should be there right now. Like, same way they talking about Ghana right now is the same way I want them to talk about Ethiopia.
Oh, we're going that way. We're definitely going that way. Yeah. Y'all see it? Y'all agree? All right. Yeah. That's what I like to hear. And so, so that was my follow-up question is, what do you find so special about connecting our community with African artists? Basically, that's what I was going to follow up with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, obviously Ethiopia, you know, politically and everything that's going on in the country, it scares a lot of people. You feel me? Like, I have my own family that don't want to even come here, right? But I come here, I've been coming here, this is my fourth time in 5 years. I come every year for about a month, 3 weeks, whatever. We just need to show them that it is safe, it is, you know, it's accessible. You can be here, and you can have that same experience on the West, on the East. And obviously, we're not there yet as far as like building up the brand. And there's also the thing about it is we have a language barrier. So it's not for a lot of people, you know, they come here, they need a translator or somebody. People in the West, they can just pull up and it's nothing. But also, I've been talking to my friends from the West, you know what I mean? I got a lot of friends from Nigeria, Ghana. They are over it. They're done. Like, they're talking about, like, I want to come to Ethiopia now. Like, I don't want to go to Ghana no more. I don't want to go to Nigeria. No shade, but they're just like, it's getting gentrified. Like, people are just coming just to say that they're there. You feel me? So, yeah.
And that's what you see unique about Ethiopia, because people that are going to come here are going to want to come here.
Yeah, because it's untouched territory. Like I bet you if you talk to any of your friends that aren't Ethiopian or Eritrean or come from this kind of culture, they haven't even thought about coming to this country. You feel me? So you just need to like show them what's available and what we're offering, and they're going to be like, fuck it, I'm going to get a flight. It's up. Yeah.
It's all good. We'll cut that part out. It's all good. We're all adults here. So thank you so much, J. Beck.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you to J. Beck. So, last but certainly not least, Ms. Blen Mekonnen.
Yes.
Founder. Wait, first of all, before I even ask this question, ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together for the fact that we have 2 women record label owners here in Ethiopia? Please. Completely forgot to mention that earlier. Women run the world. Y'all know how it is. All right. So, Blen, how was the transition from being a recording artist to being the founder and CEO of a record label?
I mean, I guess it kind of came naturally because founding a record label came out of the need for me to become a recording artist, because I've always found myself wishing like I had a recording studio, wishing I had like a team, wishing I had like a structure. So at the end of the day, after like years and years of like wishing, I decided to just create the label. And then when I finally had like resources that I can sort of like tap into, and then I finally decided to create the label. And then once I did the label, I also got the opportunity to provide that opportunity for other artists as well, so which is really good.
Okay, so follow-up question, Bana Records. And when it comes to looking, first of all, first part of the question is, what does Bana Records mean? We'll start with that, if we can talk about that, if you want to talk about that. Okay. And secondly, what do you look for in an artist when you're considering to recruit for Bana Records?
Okay, Bana, the name I thought meant something else, and then it meant something else. So like by then it was already like too late. But Bana means like sunrise in Tigrinya. But in Ge'ez it also means like, you know, the clothes that has, you know, that a clothes made out of like sheep that has, I don't know, does anybody know of it?
Shoulder pad. Okay, I think I know.
So that's what it means, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. But I thought it meant sunrise, and which it actually does as well. But so what we look for from artists, first of all, is obviously talent. They need to be able to sing and also write songs as well. The reason why we need the artists to write their own songs is because we need the music to be able to be authentic as possible. So it usually is possible when the artist writes their own songs. So that is actually like a kind of like a requirement. Second is vision. They need to have like a bullseye of where they want to go or where they want to take their careers. So that's very important. And when that vision aligns with our vision, which is great. So the third one is discipline. So one of the things I think a lot of artists, including myself, might lack is discipline, because like we don't take our careers seriously, because in the society even music is not taken seriously as a career in general, because like she said, like a lot of our parents want us to become like doctors and like engineers and stuff like that, and there's also like, I think artists here, Ethiopian artists here can relate with me when I say like there's an underlying like embarrassment when you ask the question of like, oh, what do you do, and you say like, oh, zafang. There's like an underlying shame. Yeah, I know what you mean. So I think we need to be able to take it seriously and put in the work that any other like careers require. So that discipline, but you know, like without discipline, the vision and the talent is nothing. So I think those three things are what we look for from artists.
You know, we definitely do the shame thing in our culture, but I'll tell you one thing as well that Habashas that we love money. So I think once our parents start to see how much money is in this industry and how much money...
Yeah, but like that's like the chicken and the egg situation, because if we don't take it seriously, then like the industry doesn't grow and we don't get to make money. So,
bingo.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, with Bana Records, so Bana means sunrise. And he has an artist named Bahana, which means to spread light. You two should do a collaboration. All right.
Yeah. No, funny coincidence, but like our first project from our very first artist is also titled Bana.
Whoa, okay. We're going to talk about that later. Excellent. So last question is, where is Bana Records now? Is there any exciting current or upcoming projects that you want to tell us about? And where do you see the record label going in the future, if it kind of ties in together?
Yeah, it does. So our vision is to basically like have our artists like dominating global stages. So we have a saying in our label where we say like from Charkos to whatever it is, like from Charkos to Grammys or from Charkos to Auto Arenas or whatever. So it's like we have the vision of our artists dominating the global stage. So that's the main vision that we're working towards. And yes, we have like an artist that I'm very excited about, like launching pretty soon. His name is Ibn Hakim. He's sitting like in the middle.
Where is he? Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Today's about exposure. Where is he? There he is. Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Yeah, so we're working with a lot of we're partnering with like international and local companies to launch the project and the process like successfully and as we want it. So I'm very, very excited about that. He's coming up with a project called Bana, like real soon. So yeah, stay tuned.
I love it. I love it. All right, one last time for the panel. Put your hands together. All righty. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, the main part of this is to just have a very informative conversation so you can learn from those that are outside of the market and what they experience, and then you can learn from those of the ones that are in the market and what they're going through, as you can see in depth. Are there any questions in regards to either side of the panel? And is there anything anybody wants to know?
How you guys doing? My name is Azana. So I had a question for you guys. You guys said, pretty much all of you guys said that we want to turn this music industry into an international thing. We want these Abasha artists to be heard, not just here, but also outside. Am I correct in saying and assuming that? How? That's my question. How?
Ooh.
It's all about exposure. So when it comes to like streaming, nobody streams their music on Addis. Every Ethiopian artist has like very low Spotify streaming. It's all about just YouTube. But just because you post your music on YouTube or you release your music on YouTube doesn't mean a lot. It's gonna get the reach or the audience that you need. So if you're working hard to make sure you're available on all the streaming platforms anywhere in the world, you know, it's all about promotion. Because if I live somewhere and I just discover you on Spotify and I like you, of course I'm gonna suggest you to my friend or be like, okay, hey, like I found an artist that's like really dope. So like, why don't you listen to them? Because, you know, word of mouth marketing is the way to go. And, you know, just by knowing what you're doing and just making sure your sound quality is right, you're branding your artist correctly, I don't think it's impossible for it to become international.
What about, like you guys, I think he was on the set it. What about the sound, the language barrier?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the language barrier, the sounds just, in my opinion, obviously I don't work in the music industry, right? But as a receiver of music, I feel like I personally love to listen to music that makes me vibe. You know what I mean? I feel like, yes, there's a language barrier, but if it can connect to them like in a spiritual way or a way that makes them, you know, vibe out or have a great time, I think it can be transferable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, have you heard of an artist called Asake, Nigerian artist? He's actually like barely speaking any English at all, but the melodies, the production, the presentation is so elevated, it's so high level, it's like super connected, right? And I think when you listen to a lot of the tones in Habesha music, obviously we have so many languages, so many genres. It's gonna take the young producers, I think, here that are gonna be innovative, kind of disruptive, being able to pull those sounds and make them feel like they can transfer over. Like there's going to be things that are going to stay domestic, right? And that's just is what it is. And I think over time there will be even a small domestic market. But what's going to actually help things translate is going to be being able to kind of connect those dots between presentation, sound quality, what are the different unique things that make Habesha music unique, but still making it feel accessible, right? Like, or if you're familiar with a label in Nigeria called Maven, like Rema's on Maven, Aristar's on Maven. You know, Don Jazzy was building foundation for almost 10 years before Rema popped. Like Tiwa Savage released on Maven 6-7 years ago, right? The timing for African music to finally kind of hit the global stage, and then the timing for them to be ready to receive it and ready to kind of push the gas on it. There was also some like outside investment that came in, and they took full advantage of that moment, right? And you know, there's definitely a bit of it that's a timing thing, but seeing, like we were just talking about this in the car earlier, for the last 30, 40, 50 years of music, America has always exported culture, right? It's been about what's in America, and everyone's borrowing America. This is the first time in, I mean, I don't know for sure, but in a long time, maybe ever, where it's kind of the reverse now, right? Latin music, African music, even Saudi and Indian music is having a big jumps to streaming. So now we're in a really, really special time where Americans want international music. They actually don't care if they don't understand the music, right? Bad Bunny is one of the biggest artists in the States selling out stadiums. I don't know any Latin music. My girlfriend doesn't either, but she still goes to the concert, right? So this is a really special time where I think with the right few ingredients that there is actually a world stage now, you know, or the potential for Ethiopian music to grow, you know. But again, it's gonna take the right artist development, the right producers, a little bit of timing, a little bit of luck, but all those things really coming together.
I like what you guys mentioned about exporting our culture, especially with the language barrier. I think a great example of that is the Ethiopics albums. That whole remastering of all these great Ethiopian jazz artists, classical singers and musicians are there. But the big default is that it is produced and remastered by white people. I mean, they did a great job and we're very grateful of that. But I wanted to see from that, have you guys drawn inspiration from that experience? And what kind of, because I'm tired of seeing white people kind of love our culture more than us and then remaster it and then rebrand it and sell it abroad. So how do you guys think that you guys could also discover that journey and go on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Ethiopian jazz has definitely struck a nerve in America with sort of like almost like hipster like indie rock culture, and it is a good thing, right? Like it's like, of course, as you're saying, we should be owning our culture, but the first step is for other races to accept it, And I think doing the work, even the stuff that we're kind of doing here now between media, Ethiopian diasporic music executives and artists coming in and tapping in, is going to take that foundation and that building over time for us to be able to kind of control that narrative and take that back, right? I think as far as, there's actually a call that I had recently of a family that was able to obtain the catalog back from their dad, who had a pretty prestigious Ethiopian jazz label, and they reached out and we had a good conversation, and they're just super excited to hear people sample the music, right? And like, give this to your producers and see what happens, right? And it's just gonna take more and more of that. And I think leading by example and putting the work in is really the only way.
Hi, my name is Abel. I think there was a common thread that I noticed in a lot of your stories about how you guys kind of looked around the environment that you guys were operating out of and operated out of serving a need. And I heard Beck was talking about a lot of interconnectedness. And so I guess my question is, with you guys being here today, have you guys considered being in the positions that you are and the lessons that you've learned? Have you guys considered any ways that you guys may connect with each other, and how you feel Habeshas in the diaspora that have certain resources or have certain skills and contributions that they can make can collaborate with people back home and vice versa?
So basically, Ethiopian artists, like, especially big artists, they don't like collaborating even with each other, not let alone to different record label. But, as this generation and as young people, we have to start somewhere. Like, that is one of the biggest reasons why the Ethiopian music market is still where it is, because we're all hating on each other instead of supporting each other and pushing each other up and uplifting each other to become bigger. If you see all the Nigerian artists, they literally like pull each other up. And that's how they got to where they, needed to get. So, we just need to like partner up, help each other, even do events together. And, I feel like our generation now, I think we all kind of understand that that's where it is. That's the huge problem. So knowing your problem, it's easier to find a solution and, change everything.
Yeah, I think it's an ecosystem, right? Like how she said, how Nigerians operate, right? Like, for example, I met Alemeda like years ago. We've been connected for like 3-4 years. Same with Henny. And like when it came to this specific trip, like she had needs that she wanted for this trip that, we were able to meet. And then same thing with Henny, and he was able to connect me with sponsors and such from like my event. This is a whole ecosystem of different things that people need to come back to this country for us to make these things happen. Because if we don't keep coming back, then like certain individuals like us or other people who have access or have the resources don't come back to this country, these things won't happen. You feel me? Like, for example, like one time I had dinner with Amine back in Boston, and we were just talking about Ethiopia and stuff, and he's been here, but like he just was asking me questions like, do we have like the infrastructure for me to do a show, or stuff like this, you know what I mean? Like, people just do not know if we can do it, and we have to show them that we can do it, but we have to show them we can do it together.
Yeah. I mean, Beck, you definitely hit it on the nail. Like, even just between us three, like, Alemeda coming by the studio in LA, and we connected, and just the vibe of being Habesha, and was kind of like open arms, like, yeah, let's just work. Or me and Beck talking about putting on the Berhana concert at Gaslight, and then him wanting to do the World Africa party, and we just shared our sponsorship connections, and there was no ego, there was no like, oh well, this is my person. And I'm definitely, as I'm learning how culture is out here, I do hear a lot that there is sometimes some ego and some, like, this is mine, and it, being from DC, being from a small market, we used to call like this crabs in a bucket kind of mentality, where you think there's only like enough for one person, and the reality is that it's just not going to work unless everybody collaborates. You look at Atlanta, right, a relatively smaller market compared to New York or LA and a lot of big cities, and the way that they've been able to thrive in hip hop over and over and over again is purely because of collaboration and the producers and artists and the way that they bring everybody up. And that mentality has to change for it to be successful. You know what I mean? And hopefully I think the younger generation is probably learning that that's probably how it's going to work, but putting that in practice is super, super important.
To follow up with that and to kind of, I guess, have a supporting statement to that is, my dad always taught me growing up, he's like, Nebyou, one thing about our people, we've never been colonized. And you know what? Sometimes that can help, but sometimes that can hurt too. And so I think that, and in addition to the fact that, just as Habesha people I've noticed as well living here, is that by default we're suspicious. By default we don't trust you. By default something's wrong with you until you prove it the other way around. So I think once that mindset, like you said, it was with the Generation X, it lives with the millennials, but now I think Generation Z is really going to be the one that takes our country into the next chapter. And so if that develops, and Generation Alpha and so on and so forth, if that develops the way it should be, then I think we'll be good on that front. And with that being said, I forgot to ask. No, I'm not cutting it off. There's something very important that I forgot to ask earlier, and it just came to me now. Is that we're actually back in the green room right now, all discussing and talking. Something recently just developed, and so I forgot to ask Alemeda earlier. So Alemeda, what team? I guess where are you in the music industry now? Where is the future going? And because we got a chance to talk a lot about him and his industry with the industry. I mean, Henny and his experience with the industry, but we didn't really touch base too much with you. And so I wanted to ask you that.
Like the start too? Okay. When I started out, I was living in Arizona. It's like there's no music there. There's no artists that come out of there. It's a very small town. Nobody cares about Arizona. It's just old people living there, and there's no music scene. There's like 2 studios in the whole state, and it's a huge state, so it's weird. But I was posting like videos of me singing on Instagram, and it's actually funny because the way I eventually got signed to a label called TDE. It's a label, yeah, and the only reason. Speaking of Habeshas connecting each other, the only reason I got signed was because at the time, there was an intern there that was Habesha. He was from Texas, and he just threw my name in there. And that label, like, I feel like in my head, like I living in Arizona, also being Habesha, like growing up, I didn't like not only am I Habesha, I'm Muslim too. So like doing music is like beyond looked down upon. And when I was posting videos, a lot of my like aunts, mom's friends were like, "Don't do that," like, have shame, or just like downplaying whether or not I should do it or not. But and it did affect me at first. But me getting recognized through Instagram was like, it was a huge sign for me, especially from a label that has such great artists such as Kendrick Lamar and SZA. And they only have 11 artists, so I felt like there was never going to be a bigger sign for me to actually go and believe in myself and pursue music. But I spent the last, it was 2019 I got signed, and I spent the last 3 years just, like I said, learning to produce, learning to play guitar, learning to songwrite. And TDE is very big on artist development. They step back and they let you do what you want to do. They let you figure it out. And I'm currently working on an album, and I make rock music, which I feel like is very different. We have a lot of great Habesha artists in the industry, but I feel like that's another way to, I feel like push the industry in a way where you have somebody like me who's doing something that's entering a realm that there is no Habeshas in. Honestly, I haven't seen it in America, but I currently just signed to Warner Music. It was my very first deal, yeah. And like she said earlier, like you really cannot do it as without a team. Like I really thought I'm a controlling person. I want to edit my music video. I want to be the photographer. And that's impossible. But eventually I accepted that. Yeah, I can rely on people. I can get help. Actually, right here front row is my amazing manager, Linda. And she's been there from the very beginning, and she's helped me. I've been able to lean on her multiple times. And right next to her is Kaylani. She's directed all my music videos. She's amazing, yeah. Most of my team is women, so that's also like, it's definitely made me feel more comfortable in doing music. But yeah, I feel like I'm gonna drop my first project very soon. And yeah, you said when? Hopefully, I mean, the way you say one day and it never happens, you know what I mean? It gets pushed back a million times. So hopefully, March? Yeah? I don't know. Oh yeah. But it's probably gonna be April. I don't know. And also thanks to amazing people in the industry like Henny and J-Beck, they've been able to, like I said, like when I first worked with his producer Louis, I actually didn't even know that the label was owned or run by a Habesha person. Like it's just there's so many people, and I feel like Habesha people getting into the industry and getting into certain positions, it definitely has helped me. Like I feel like I've been in rooms that just because I was Habesha, and I feel like I really felt support more than anything, and it really did help me. Just feel like there's family there. It's not just a industry full of strangers where it's like it gets crazy sometimes. But I've definitely felt more comfortable when I see my people there, and yeah, no, it's definitely it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Congratulations on your signing. We're excited to see what you got coming out. So I know we have one question, and then I'll make a comment about what you said. I don't want to make the questioner wait. So who has the follow-up question?
What's up, guys? Thank you for your words. And I had a question. I'm an artist myself, born and raised here. I live in Holland, Rotterdam, and I've been coming here every year, connected with artists here. For example, I've been working with Blen as well, went to the studio, worked with her producer. And I have realized, like, artists here, they're very disconnected. So you have a lot of islands. And I was thinking, I had an idea, like, why hasn't there been like a writing camp, 2-3 days where people just get into rooms, different producers, artists, and just get at it, get creative. And I feel like something like that, from my experience in Europe, it creates a lot of energy, a lot of new stuff, and just creativity. And I'm like, I don't know, have you guys thought about doing things like that here?
Yeah, that's a great point, definitely. I mean, there was actually just a writing camp in Kenya that Spotify sponsored that Brahana went to a couple months ago. And, obviously with the growth of the African continent and the DSP starting to take the African continent more seriously, I think there could be conversations for sponsors and ways to kind of help fund that, to connect everybody together. Also, obviously, more studio infrastructure here would definitely help that. But yeah, I think that's definitely the right mindset.
And going back to what we were saying earlier, is to have that. I mean, we're very decentralized. You're right, and it goes back to the paranoia. It goes back to the trust. I'll be honest with you. Asking a bunch of Habesha people to go in a room and write something together, first mindset is, he's going to steal my writing. He's going to steal my idea. He's going to steal my flow. So I'm with you. And to be very honest with you, I think that's one of my callings in life, is to get to this moment, to do things of that nature. But there's a lot of things mental-wise that we need to get over as a people in order to work in that collaborative space. But even if it's in your own crews, even if it's in your own pockets, even if you just built a little studio in the service of your Gubbi, whatever the case might be, I think once it starts to grow organically and we get that sense of trust with one another, then we'll get to that level. Okay, what you got to say?
So it's very difficult to do that because, like he said, like people don't trust each other out here, especially artists. But if you ever want to come as Mela Muziqa, like we're a very like family-oriented studio where we just like, it's a vibe. That's what we call it. It's a vibe. Anybody's welcome as long as you're an art people. If you're artistic, you could come. And we have somewhat created that even if you're not our artist, you still could come. We still have like really dope producers that are very awesome, honestly. And it's a great circle, it's a great energy, but you know, finding those type of people to create something really big is very difficult, especially here in Addis.
My name's Muti, I'm from London, but I'm originally from Burundi, Rwanda, and South Korea. So I've always been a diaspora in the London market, and I've been in the freaking film, in the fashion, and I've been, you know, exoticized in a certain way where I've seen how they've siphoned and used the energy of us. So only to the time when I realized, right, we need to have our own production and own it, that we start having like our own music video stages and doing our own productions, where we're able to actually take the level of artists to a higher standard. And it was about the visual communication, it was about the stories now, because otherwise, everyone's still existing in the old narrative to feel that they need to sell their records. But the authenticity, our spirituality, our tradition, what we have, our history, is something so powerful. And if made contemporary in a way that people could just get this one, you know what I'm saying? Get this one, but feel the feeling of that, you know what I'm saying? Worldwide, it would electrify people. And then the other thing is that we don't have enough pipelines for East African artists, especially in Europe. I've been in the game, been at Afro Nation, been at all the O2 shows, with Bana, all of this stuff, and I've said, how do these West African lot just privatize their own concert? They're not getting booked by other people, they're just doing one show in advance, 1 year, and they've handled this team, but they're not accessible. And the same way with the East African artists, I feel like there's a new pipeline that really wants to be established in the UK scene, because the festival scene in the UK is banging. They have got such a market, they're always hungry for it, but there's not enough. As we were talking about our generation, the diaspora, right? We need to have communication on these global levels to be able to assist how these ecosystems are working. So even my man saying this, World Africa, that's spot on, bro. Bring that to Europe, bring it to London, let me know, bro. We'll cook, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Connect.
For real. Because it's about, we need to have those stages so we can platform the East African artists in the European market. If we don't have that major stage where people can come and access and be like, oh, I've discovered this new artist, how does it even break through unless there's a major collaboration? You know what I'm saying? So
No, with you on that one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. That was just my reflections.
Thank
just
you
send
so
us some
much.
love. Yeah.
We appreciate that. Well, welcome to Ethiopia, my brother. Welcome to Ethiopia. And one last final point that I want to make that I think we really forgot to discuss, and for those of us that live here and for those of us that are visiting, we both experienced it on either side, is that I think foreign currency is a big, big, big problem for Ethiopia. But then now when you bring it into our industry, I think a lot of things that have formed barriers have really been, how can you get to the outside market? How can the outside market come here, help, do what they have to do, and then still feel like, you know, they've been a part of the market? So that's just something when he was talking that really popped into my mind, is that once, and I'm saying all that to say, once now the banking sector start to open up, and once things start to become, because in a few years, the dollar won't be a problem anymore in Ethiopia. And when that happens, things are going to change rapidly. Quite rapidly. So I think that's also something infrastructure-wise that we didn't talk about.
Also, I think it also with the music thing, right? When they get in the room and they were saying that like people will like think that they're gonna steal stuff. I think, you know, like even when it comes to supporting stuff, right? Like Habeshas are, you know, I feel like for a long time, you know, they need validation from other people to like some, I'm not saying everybody, but like I feel like it's been prominent in the culture where like validation is necessary for them to support something, because there's no reason why we have the second biggest country population in Africa and we're not doing the same thing like Nigeria is doing, as in supporting our artists. It just doesn't make sense, you feel me? But like, let me give you an example, right? So thankfully, so there's a journalist for Billboard. Her name is Henok. She does. You guys should look her up. She does a lot of write-ups for different artists, a lot of African artists specifically too. She supports them greatly. But she did a write-up on traveling African events, you know, across the United States, and she hit me up and she interviewed me and she put me on that list as like one of the top 5 African events in the country. And that allowed me to get the validation from other people so that when I got to these other cities, they would pull up, because they're looking at these write-ups and everything to be like, damn, I gotta go now. Me personally, I don't need validation because I know what I built. But at the same time, other people need to see that, and other people need to like hear that for them to support. And I think people like Head On are very important in that process for us.
Yeah, and I mean, just first, the energy you was giving was perfect. I fuck with you. No, but, you know, even you saying that, okay, cool, the festival market in London is slowing down, which that is true. It's a little bit kind of cannibalized, kind of like the bubbles kind of popped. People are looking for fresh things. That, you know, that's kind of a call for you to say, well, how do I start that thing? What is that thing, right? I remember being around when Everyday People first started. I remember being around when, you know, Broccoli City in DC 10-year anniversary, you know, started, and you just have to kind of, you have to go, right? If you see a hole in the market and you feel like this is the time where things are shifting and is clearly a really big appetite for African culture, it just has to be given to people a certain way, right? So I think that's 100% the energy for sure.
And seeing that we've hit the exactly 1 hour mark, I'm losing half the room's attention. So we got one more. I would love it. I would love it. This is a dialogue. Let's talk. Hey.
Hey.
What's up?
Salam na.
Salam ne.
We're having our conversation. Hi, everyone. My name is Iridi. I'm a singer-songwriter and co-founder of Mizan Records here in Addis. I came back here in 2019 because I really wanted to make an impact here and to start my artistic career in Addis and to grow towards the international. But there are quite a lot of challenges. So my question to you guys is, how do you dodge conformity? Conformity?
You got it. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Conformity.
Because the music here is very similar. We have very little diversity. So how do you guys, would you guys approach the growth, like Ethiopian music growth, and to get out of the conformity that people are expecting from the musicians here?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no kind of one answer or right answer, but you know, one thing when we were talking about this earlier, that and every culture has a bit of this for sure. It's not just Abishai's, but there's a lot of copy paste. A lot of times, I think in Abishai culture, you see something working and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go do that, you know, and you know, taking what's happening around the world and just kind of flipping it to sound like your own thing. A lot of times that's not gonna really cut through and work. I think it's gonna be the artists that have an authentic voice, have an original tone, the music that they're making is coming from an inspired place. And obviously we have the internet, there's resources just to put things out. And if it's the right energy, people will find it, right? And then it's kind of your job to kind of sift through what's the right fit for you. I mean, like recently there was this super early artist from Ghana called Baba J. Wasn't a bunch of streaming data, a little bit of stuff, but nothing crazy. And I forgot who, an intern or someone sent it to me, and I was just like, whoa, what is this, right? And I got on the phone with the team that's working on it, and they were excited to get on the phone. Like it just kind of happens like that. So when you're putting out the right energy and it's genuinely unique, people will seek it out, right? There's people just doing research online all day, A&R research, trying to find things. And thankfully, African music is in a spot where corporations and different people care about it now. So, you know, this is definitely a special time for that, but it's again, like trying to figure out how to make something that's genuinely unique, authentic, doesn't feel copy paste, and just putting it out there and kind of seeing what happens.
And to follow up that, I think just my little 2 cents on this, something that I've noticed coming from over there and living here for the past 10 years as well is that, you know, at first I didn't understand, why do all the guys that sell flowers by the airport, they're in a line together, like all right next to each other? Why does everybody that sell muz in Zagar, why are they all next to each other? Like, why does everybody sell watermelon, or like spread out? Like, why are you guys all on the same block? But then over time, my family and my community explained to me, it's like, we have also a very trustworthy kind of, you got to prove it to me before I do it kind of mindset. And then we basically, wow, I just realized that we trust each other, but we don't trust each other at the same time. Wow. So yeah, so we see that and we go, okay, then I'll go sell, if it makes sense to sell bananas there, then I'm going to do what my brother's doing. But if you notice, they all live in harmony. There's no fighting. There's no get off my block. It's just like, okay, if it works, let's all do it. So I think if we keep that mindset and we bring it over to the music industry, whereas here, creativity is all about what? Being unique, being your own voice, being your own spirit, being your own self. And so I think once we learn that creativity is not to do what we naturally do, which is to copy paste, because that's just what we understand as a culture, it's more to, hey, we gotta actually be unique, you know? My artistry will go far if people notice what I do is different from other artists. And that's not to knock any other artists or say anything.
As Ethiopians, I feel like we're so used to like living in a box, and we think we're in a box as well. But sometimes we have to like push ourselves to think outside that box, like gain inspiration from something else. You know, we don't have to just always look at each other. If you just kind of look at yourself and push yourself, you could be creative, and you could, you know, finally break that box and that boundary, so you could like tap into all of your talent that you have. And with artists here in Ethiopia, it's like nobody has the confidence to do so, because everybody's scared like to be judged or to be said, oh, you know, you sound like Ferenj, you know. For example, like Yimra, he's a rapper, he's an English rapper, he's a lyricist, he's an awesome guy, but he's not Ferenj. He's never left Ethiopia, like ever in his life, you know what I mean? So just because people put us in that box doesn't mean we have to stay in that box. You know, we have to push ourselves in order to discover other things that are not just about us or the people around us or our community.
And with that being said, we're not saying the event is over. We're just going to end the panel discussion part, because thank you so much for everybody's patience. I know it takes a lot to sit down for an hour and a half for our people. But we will now start our networking hour. So the rooftop is set up for a beautiful networking hour. So please, there are some very, 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 very interesting people in this room. I'm not going to call anybody out, but please make sure you walk around and meet everybody, and let's connect. And also thank you so much to Dink TV. Thank you so much to Kassu Domino Warehouse for having us here. Make sure you check out the showroom. And thank you so much to Arada team for also being a part of this as well. Thank you, Arada. And yeah, let's build, let's connect, and thank you so much for everybody that came.